This is Akko's new CS Silver switches. With a short pre-travel of 1 mm, this is one of the fastest pre-travel out of all of their CS switches, in which they claim is ideal for gaming. So how do they sound and feel? Let's find out. What is going on, guys? Ox here and welcome back to my channel. We are back with yes you know it, we are back with yet another Akko CS switches. In today's video, we'll be taking a look and listen at the CS Silver switches. The switches were sent for a review, but I wasn't paid to make the video, so of course, I will give you guys my honest and unbiased opinion about the switch. As mentioned on my intro, the switches has the shortest pre-travel out of all Akko switches, coming in with 1 mm. They also changed the material on the bottom housing, and this time they are using nylon instead of a polycarbonate. So we'll be doing the usual, a stock versus lube comparison, a sound comparison versus the CS switches and the jelly switches, and of course a material breakdown. If you want to hear my thoughts and opinion about the switches, please do stick around at the end of the sound test. Before the sound test starts, let me give you guys a quick disclaimer. The sound and experience may vary depending on your keyboard build, so we might have a different experience on your keyboard. I am using the Vega65 with a polycarbonate plate, a PCB to plate foam, and one case foam. The switches was lubed with a Krydox 205 grade 0 and 105 grade 0 on the springs. We are using a PBT set from Akko, so with all of that out of the way, please do enjoy the sound test. So that was a sound test for the CS Silver switches. Let me know what you think about them on the comment section down below. I would love to know your thoughts and opinion about them. And before we talk about my own thoughts and opinion about the switches, you already know the drill. Let's break down the materials that was used on the switch. As you can see, these are still a 3-pin switch and is using an MX style housing. So we have polycarbonate for the top housing. Of course, we have palm for the stem, but this time they are using a long pole stem for the CS Silver. Another change is the bottom housing and is now using nylon for it. And lastly, the springs, which are the same 22mm extension springs. Here's a quick comparison on the long pole stem versus a jelly switch. So that was a material breakdown for the switches, and if you made it up to this point, I would like to say please don't forget to hit the like button and thank you for staying. Also, let me remind you of my disclaimer that the sound and experience may vary depending on your keyboard build, so we might have different experience on the switch. Again, I'm using my Vega65 with a polycarbonate plate, a PCB to plate foam, and one case foam. Switches was lubed with a Krydox 205 grade 0 and 105 grade 0 on the springs. The keycaps that we used was the PBT set from Akko. So finally, let's talk about my thoughts and opinion about the CS Silver switches. Now finally, let's talk about my thoughts on the feel. Let's first talk about the 1mm pre-travel, making this the shortest pre-travel that Akko has ever released on their switches. So first, I was actually kind of skeptical and said, okay, Akko is now using the term quote-unquote for better gaming experience on their switches. So I tried it, I played some FPS, and to my surprise, it kind of actually gets the job done. I really bottom out when I press my movement keys, which I find it helpful at times, but with this short pre-travel, you need to be careful because you might be prone to accidental key presses, which I did experience. Now honestly, I'm really impressed and quite surprised that these feels really smooth on stock. I can say out of all Akko switches that I've tried before, this by far is the best one out of the box. It didn't feel plasticky, it didn't feel sluggish, which was my main issues when using the jelly and the CS switches on stock. I can say in terms of feel, you can actually use them on stock as well. But of course, I had to lube them, and I lubed them lightly on the stems and the rail, and I didn't lube the top housing. Once lubed, it felt, of course, more smoother, but to be honest, when lube, it wasn't really like a night and day experience, so it's really like it feels smooth out of the box. Now let's talk about my thoughts on the sound. Boy, I didn't hear any spring ping and lift ping on stock. Like, finally. I'm really surprised because even the sound on stock, it's quite passable for me. That is, again, our experience might be different, but going back on stock, it has that a bit deep of a clack considering it still uses a extension spring, so you can hear a snappier return, but when lube, it became more subtle. But same as what I said earlier, it didn't sound like a night and day difference. When lube, some of you might say that you didn't notice any sound difference with the stock versus lube, but overall, I'm satisfied on how it sound, may it be stock or lubed. So for my overall thoughts on the CS Silver, well, considering that I am impressed on how they sound and feel, we need to consider, of course, the pricing. Now, unlike the CS and the jelly switches, this would come in for $14 for 45 pieces. Now, the price isn't as good as the other switches before, and are they worth the markup? Well, honestly, I think that this should be the same price as the jelly switches, which are $12. I mean, yeah, RX, it's a $2 markup, but I believe that they can make the jelly switches as good as this on stock while maintaining, of course, the price. I mean, the jelly switches, they are really good now, but of course, granted that they use a different material on the bottom housing for these, which are now nylon, and which I am guessing that that's the cause of the markup. In my opinion, these are worth it if you haven't tried any Akko switches at all. But if you are coming from the CS switches like the matches, the radiant reds, and the rose reds, I can say that the markup is worth it. But if you have the jelly switches already, it's fine. You're really not missing something up on the CS Silver. It's just that the stock is really good and there's no spring and lift ping. So yeah, I still stand by that. I wish that they can sell them in packs of 10 in the future, please. And of course, a 5-pin switch and maybe a more heavier switch spring or more heavier actuation force. But again, this is my own thoughts and opinion about the CS Silver. Again, I always stress this out on my videos that the sound and experience may vary depending on your keyboard build. So of course, please comment down below on what you think about the Switch. So that is it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed my review on the CS Silver, and this by far was my most in-depth Akko Switch video in terms of my thoughts and opinion. So I really hope you liked the video. So please don't forget to hit the like button, and of course let's aim for 50 likes for this video. I know that we can do it. And also thank you Akko for sending over the switches. I'm really enjoying them, so all of Akko's link will be on the description down below. And of course, thank you guys for always supporting me and my reviews. And what's next? Well, you already know, we have to try out the new Jelly Purple and the CS Sakura. So both of the switches, it's on its way. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to hit the like button, share if you want, and of course, subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys on the next Soundtest. Peace.